Well, go right ahead, Camille.
Good evening, good evening, and welcome to yet another program of the Alliance on the Move. I would like to say thank you for having us in your living room, in your bedrooms, in your cars, wherever you are. Thank you for having us. Thank you for listening to us week after week as we bring the issues and the truth, nothing but the truth, to you, the viewing public. Thank you, Borbies, for having us. This is your program, and we are happy that you have us here with you yet another evening. Tonight, I have with me no other than Mr. Kemraj Ramjatan. He's no stranger to you. He is our former leader, still with us, still advising us, still leading us in the right path as he always do. Our next guest with us is Mr. Colin Haynes, who will be joining us in just a few seconds. So at this time, I'll have Kemraj
Thanks,
introduce
Camille. Thanks
himself
very much.
all again. And
Thanks very much, Borbicians. Thank you very much for being on with us again on another Alliance on the Move program. We have quite a number of issues to talk about, and one that is very topical is that corruption report of 2024 from
yeah,
Transparency International. Transparency International, as you know, is an international body, a kind of a watchdog body that do what is called a lot of scrutinizing and information gathering within the various countries of the world, and then it comes out with a report at the end of the year concerning what is the status of the corruption in that country. It did 182 countries, I think, this year, and we suffered pretty badly from the report in the sense that the report has indicated that we are indeed a very corrupt country. And this is, an international body that is talking about Guyana. Of course, the president, Irfan Ali, came out and indicated that this thing is politically biased. Well, I don't know what
yes.
political bias. He just wants to
Kemraj,
cover up.
Kemraj, the funny thing is about it is that he feel as if the coalition should not have gotten such a high score. He's questioning why the coalition get such a high score and they're not getting that high score. Forgetting that in 2018, I may stand corrected, the coalition took Guyana off of the blacklist.
That's correct. That is correct. Of course, we all know how corrupt the PPP is. And you just don't have need for corrupt Transparency International to talk about corruption in Guyana. Borbician see it every day with the contractors. Borbician see it every day with the regional law officers. And I mean, that is one of the reasons why, what's his name?
Ramaya,
Ramaya. Ramaya gone and say, well, look, the corruption is the highest he has ever seen all over the place. And Ramaya
mm-hmm.
speaks to a lot of people. And Ramaya indicated to me, he was by me a couple months ago, and he indicated that the thing has gone so rotten, he never expected. So I told him, what do you never expected? These people are greedy, and all manner of schemes and devices they will put on with contractors' money, with even the distribution of all the fishermen's funding, the COVID funds and everything. They know how to do it. And they got a set of people inside of that PVP that does it all the time. But I just want
Kemraj, what I would like you to do, I'm not cutting you, but it's to break it down for us, that so that it's the deaf, the dumb, and the blind can understand what is taking place, what is the information that was put out by the transparency, and let the public understand what is really going on, because we're seeing zero is very corrupt. zero is corrupt and 100 is very corrupt. So
Yeah.
just break down that
No,
analysis for us.
zero is corrupt, very corrupt,
Yeah.
and
And
100
100
is
is
very
corrupt.
honest. Yeah, the countries that get more than 50 and so on. What
Yeah, so
we
we
have,
stand at
that is the
39. So
scale
just
in
break
which.
it down, right? Break it down for us so that we can understand, the public can understand what
Yeah.
exactly is going on.
Well, what they do is they ask the country, a lot of businessmen, politicians, and the diplomatic community inside of the country, like Guyana, they would ask them what is their perception or the reality of what is going on, the corruption. Now, we have seen in the last budget and even the 2024 budget, a lot of slush funds were created, bank accounts are open, and lots of money is being given to certain friends and family and flatterers, as I would say. And these people then collate all that information they got, and depending on what it is, they then give you a score. Okay? And they also check out what is happening in your newspapers, who and who get corruption, like House in New York, who and who resign from CHPA, who and who inside of the police force take $8.5 million to go and give a gift, and so on. And all these things, which are the truth, they then collate and they then give you a score. Our score this year, well, it is last year really, because it's January 2024 to December
Yeah,
2024. We got,
39.
I think, 39 points.
Right, moving
So
from
zero,
24 in the
yeah,
coalition time.
right. Well, we had gotten coalition times, the points had gone up to 41,
Yeah,
right? And because the PPP had, I think, 29 points in
yes,
2015. And then we
yeah, raise
did
it up.
very well. And we
Yeah,
did with Soku and a number of other issues. We brought down Sitlington from England. We brought down Russell Combe to deal with corruption and so on in and around the country. And these people did major investigations and so on. And we caught a lot of people. And each year, our thing went up as a country that is developing and improving its corruption index, anti-corruption index, I should say. So we carried it up to 41,
yeah,
right? And then the 2021, 2022, it stick around at around 40, and then it gone down this year now to 39. Each point there shows that the government is not doing the necessary things to halt corruption. And what the report also says, and I want you to understand this, is that this government, the PPP government, what they are doing together with certain economic elites. In my book, the economic elites are the contractor class. They have captured the state and fostering misappropriation of resources. Exact words what they're talking about. And also indulging in illicit enrichment. And they're committing an environmental crime. And they say further on in the report, although the country has created a lot of anti-corruption institutions and laws, transparency and law enforcement are very low, with attacks on
not
dissenting
working.
voices and activists and journalists increasingly common. We then went on to get 90 space with 39 points out of 182 countries. And of course, we went on to talk about how, in a press release yesterday, how even the parliament and its committees in parliament have not been operating so that we could scrutinize some of these officials. Take, for example, the Parliamentary Committee on the Security Sector. We could have called the Commissioner of Police, Mr. Hicken, in that committee meeting and have like what is happening in America right now. congressional deliberations, congressional scrutiny, and ask him why it is. But they don't want to call up these meetings. Mr. Ben, in 2020, convened the meeting, named the people in it, and never ever again held one meeting. So we can't call the commissioner of police, we can't call the fire chief with all the fires and so on happening. We can't call the prison authorities or the Kanu officials with all that has happened with that 4 ton of cocaine in the hinterland.
Right.
Yeah. So that is what we had that political body for. To call them, and we got powers of subpoena. Got you behind here. We want to hear some of the answers. What you got to tell us about gift and so on for Brutus and all kind of thing you collecting. That's the kind of thing we wanted in this country. And so we get all these bodies and non-functioning. They're all dysfunctional or they're not operational. And that is why
if the president could call contractors and who want to turn up, then, I mean, how can he call his ministers and so?
Well, that's the trouble. I mean, it is only a facade. It is only a sham. Because if you really want to have anti-corruption approaches to government, you got to allow the opposition to ask the question. Just like in any other country. The government members might not want to ask the question, but if you really want to be a good, genuine democracy, the opposition members, they are far freer to put some good licks in some of these senior officials who have been indulging in all these nonsense. I mean, one of them resigned the other day, CHPA head. I mean, we would want him to come in whatever is the committee, find out from him what is it that happened. We understand is one kind of real estate transaction and all that. We want the truth, and you just don't go hide and so on like that. And that is why the report writers for the report in the overseas country, they then came out with this very biting criticism of the Irfaan Ali government in relation to matters of corruption. The corruption has gone worse and we are doing really, really bad. And it's because, of course, we got so much money now. This oil money is billions and billions of dollars. So we now got, and this is 1.3 billion, is this US dollars? US dollars. Yeah. And so we feel that this kind of thing is going to make rotten a lot of these players that are around. Even within the regions, we understand that the corruption has gotten bad. And even in local authority councils, all kinds of things, people selling sand, people doing all manner of things. And so this country ain't got no good under this PPP. It ain't got no good because all of them so bloody greedy. That is what they want. And that is why when you put up systems now, like the police force, this, that, whatever, they are also corrupt. And they too are not utilizing the law enforcement institutions to stop this thing. Corruption eats into the heart of a country and kills it literally. And a lot of people then take the money and they carry them away America and all over the place. And you don't have anything here. And that is why life is so difficult in this country. Corruption is rampant. And it's a lot of these officials from the political party in government and the people in government, especially, in my view, senior leaders, they don't want to check on them. We can get all kind of wickedness happening, rape case, all kind of thing. That they don't even get charged.
True. But you know, Kamaj, speaking about them not even getting charged, I just read in the papers yesterday about the two doctors that were fired because of the Venezuelan mother and child that died at GPHC. My thing is, Kemraj, it's good that they did an investigation, they came up with results. But my problem with that is thousands of Guyanese mothers and babies died under the same regime, and we didn't had one investigation. We didn't had one nurse, doctor, nobody get fired. But just this foreigner here, come here, this incident, and doctors being fired. Is it that the Guyanese lives have
Well,
no
I'll ask
worth?
Colin to
Is it that
join us with the conversation now. Colin is a medical
Colin
expert.
is there? Colin, good night.
Good night. Good night. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Camille. And Camrat,
Yes,
it's good to be on the show with you.
Good night.
yes. Viewers, this is Colin Haynes. I'll give him 3 seconds to introduce himself because this is a man in the medical field with lots of heart. So, Colin,
Yeah, I'm a public health international healthcare IT consultant. So I work in program planning, implementation, evaluation of public health programs. Also, I work along with major healthcare systems in developing their health information technology, which is like EMRs and that kind of thing. So I do a lot of advising, training, and development, and so forth. So that's just a short, snippet of my background, mostly public health based. In return to the question, so we're going through a health crisis. I mean, if you look at our country, we have the highest levels of diabetes, hypertension, kidney disease, heart disease is the major killer for Guyanese right now, and we can't forget there's a lingering problem that we've never been able to solve, which is maternal child health, and that's what you're talking about. So you
yes,
have a situation where mothers coming with complications, and there's supposed to be a procedure that is followed. But when you have a health system that is in crisis mode, you have doctors that are not completely trained for certain scenarios, right? And one of the things Georgetown Public Hospital should always be doing as a big institution is doing the research, is doing the training, is evaluating itself and saying, are we doing the right things? Are we, are we, is this process working? Is our maternal child health policy working? Are we, what are some of the things that we're seeing? So overall, I think the institutions are lacking, right? The ability for, robust education, research, and so forth. And then I was surprised when I saw the news that they investigated somebody, foreign, because I know most of these things, Camille, Camraj, you guys can agree. A report is done and it gets swept under the rug, you know.
yes.
So
With
I would think
Guyanese life, so it's like
right, right.
our life doesn't have any
So,
value.
so I was thinking maybe this had to be some important person, right, who is related to the Venezuelan, who kicked up a fuss about somebody in high place, and that's how this investigation happened. Because I mean, we don't do very good with investigating things unless somebody on the top, is feeling the squeeze, and that is bad. That's a bad precedent. You need to be able to, and this is why I think greater accountability needs to happen. I know they're trying to implement electronic medical records, but one of the things with healthcare, you can go back and pull records. You can go back and interview people and see what happened. So they know what to do, but they're very selective with what they do for certain people. If the system is supposed to work, it's supposed to work for everybody.
Sure.
So, I
Across
know
the
we were
board.
talking about corruption earlier, and I wanted to cover that because this is classical corruption, right? It's happening everywhere. Healthcare, agriculture, everywhere it's happening. It's an endemic thing. It's widespread. It's like a disease, right? And if you were to track a lot of the corruption, it all goes back to one person in this country. Everything goes back to one person, and the measure is not very difficult. I mean, if a man was making $2, right, and he's making $2, and all he can afford is $2, but you see him driving a car for $10, then you have to ask the question: how did you get $10? You only make $2, but you're driving $10 stuff. Ministers are making I mean, nothing short of $5,000 a year. That $5,000 a month. That's $60,000 a year. After 4 years, that's 250,000. How come you can afford a $900,000 home in New York? You know,
Yeah.
you would have had to be in working as a minister for what, 15 years or 20 years to be able to afford $1 million home. So these things aren't very hard to see, Camille and Kemraj. I mean, you have to say, how did you get this? And if you can't show the funds, then most likely it's corruption. It's gotten by ill-gotten means.
Yeah,
Colin, take us through.
at law school, we were taught what is circumstantial evidence.
Mm-hmm.
And if you went to visit a distillery and you went in sober, and at the other end, when you're done the visit, you come out and you're drunk, well, it means circumstantially that you had some of the liquor.
Exactly.
Right? Well, some of these people had nothing when they started.
Right.
Nothing.
Right.
And if you see the big vehicle and the big house, Ross, them got now.
Mm-hmm.
When you ask them, and that is why this fella Lee Kuan Yew in Singapore, when he
Yes,
went
yes.
back to Singapore after he qualified as a lawyer
Mm-hmm.
in London, he passed, he won the elections. He went there as a very young man and he won the elections and so on. And he said, the first thing I got to do is to pass a law that switches the burden. Now, if you walk in $2 a day and you get a $10 car,
Mm-hmm.
you got to prove to the state how come you get a $10 car. Not
Correct.
like the criminal law that we have in Guyana here, which
Mhm.
says the prosecution got to prove how you get the $10 car. Well, sometimes we know, but he switched the burden. And he said, well, you prove to me.
Right.
Other people say how it was unconstitutional. And he said, no, bother with that.
Yeah.
We have to do something about corruption.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't tell me about constitution and all of that. Because what is worse than corruption? And in any event, all I am asking you for, because you ought to know the facts, how you get a $10 car and you walk $2?
Exactly.
And then he stopped the thing, he jail about a couple hundred of them. And all of them start. And that is why Singapore is one of the least corrupt countries. It did very well
Top
out of the
five.
point system. Whereas
Yeah.
we get 39 points, I think Singapore got about
90,
80 points
90
or
something.
75 points.
Yeah.
You know? But that is where your laws got to come and enforce this thing. Because people just greedy and there is no contentment. I don't know if they're in the dead, they can carry all with them. You know what I mean? And that is the trouble we got with a lot of Guyanese. And especially a Novo rich class. It got a kind of crony contractor capitalist. Oh gosh, all of them want is money, money, money. And they managed to go and with the Empatab and with other officials get contract. Sometimes the contract is $690 more than the engineers estimate. One of them. $690 million more than what the engineer estimate the project for. Look at that one called Critic. I mean,
Yeah.
he ain't do nothing yet and he collect about a couple $100 million.
Yeah,
Mhm.
180
going on?
million.
Under
Yeah.
80 million. Right.
And then when he get ready, I don't listen to him all the time. I don't even listen to him. But maybe he just cuss up every morning. Cuss up people and so on.
Before we go back to Colin, um, right now we have a problem in Region 6 with drainage and irrigation. Now, Black Blush Polder is underwater. The farmers are now complaining about the drainage and they are using, the farmers are planting 2.5 acres of rice where it's supposed to be persons are living there where it's
Homesteads.
supposed to be supposed to be farmland, right? So right there you're seeing some more corruption coming out. Then there's problem with livestock because the water now is seeping in, it's killing the people's livestock. So it's like I am so fed up. I am so fed up and disgust
And it
with the
has health
things
reasons
going on.
too. It has health
And
implications.
Right.
right, right now there is a canal that should have been cleaned with machine during the dry season so that the contractors now could have kept it clean for not the rainy season. Now they're trying to clean that canal.
Yeah.
Now they're taking machine there to clean that canal. So it's like I'm so fed up. I'm so
No, well,
fed
look,
up.
this is also another thing because when you're senior officials, whether it's the local level, the regional level, or the central level, you have to have a commitment to go to the lands and there and see what people is doing. When homesteads were given, along with a 15-acre patch of rice land, the 15 acre, you got to plant your rice. And the homestead will have your house, and it is supposed to have a garden. You plant your baigan, your bora, your
Well, they're
cocoa, and
planting
whatever,
rice
pepper and so
now,
on. Yeah,
and draining the water is affecting the persons that has their crash cap and the
precisely,
chicken and
precisely. And
them
you're supposed to,
fowl and
on that
whatever.
land, the homestead mind your chicken, your duck, and even a couple goat and so on. And it is higher than the rice land. But oh, everything they've done, and they want to go plant rice and so on. And a lot of them have said the rice now make money, but all of them they put a plant rice. And you need cows, you need for that 2.5 acres homestead, some milk for at least the kids in the family, and so on. That is, I remember when Chedi Jagan had indicated why they're homesteads because you need to get vegetables and so on planted. You can't go and plant the vegetable in the rice field patch of 15 acres.
Right,
Right.
right.
So, but all has gone unplanned now, and all have gone what is called. It is everybody doing what they feel that they should be doing, and so there is
And
no enforcement.
right, Cameron, now even the farmers are complaining that the last crop they were paid $5,800 a ton for paddy, and now they're only being paid $5,000 a ton fifty
A bag.
thousand dollars a ton for
No, no,
paddy.
not a ton. I think it is
A bag,
a
yeah,
bag. A bag.
yeah,
They used to get $5,000 a bag for paddy, and
5,800,
eight
and
hundred.
now they get it, yeah,
And they get in, I think, 4,800 or even less now. fifteen
yeah,
hundred dollars or $1,200 less.
less, right.
Now that is crazy because the people can't make money for offset the cost and the labor and so on in the rice field if the price gonna come down like that. It is crazy. And I saw that they were picketing in front of something there. There was a little
Yeah,
kickback.
they were discussing the drainage and irrigation and
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Look,
Hmm.
life is difficult all over this country now. And although we got so much monies, life is difficult. Not only the price of rice farmers' paddy has gone down, but the food stuff that paddy producers eat. You know what I mean? Like the vegetables, the chicken and the fish and everything. They say all them price gone up. And so that is what is causing this country to have so much problems. And I mean, it is not nice. And now you got Trump going to send back a whole set of them here.
Yeah.
I don't know what is going to
Uh,
happen here.
Colin, um, we were told that persons now have to pay $13,000 for dialysis.
Colin, is
Can
that?
you, Colin?
Oh yeah, Colin, she's asking you a question there. You having some
Colin, you
problem?
there?
Yes, I was having some technical difficulties. Sorry.
All
I
right,
moved
good.
the line now.
We
Yeah.
was talking about $13,000 dialysis cost now.
The
Yes, yes.
dialysis costs of $13,000. Can you take us through what is really going on? Because you did mention it on our last press conference. So
Right.
please enlighten the public.
So, just a background, patients are, because we have a higher incidence or a higher amount of kidney disease happening, right? So patients need to do dialysis, and your kidneys are not good. Sometimes you get to stage 3, stage 4 kidney disease. That's kind of like towards the end, your kidneys are not functioning. So they put you through a machine. They run a machine, and it pushes some pharmaceuticals in there, and it cleans out your kidney. So every maybe 3 days, you do it a week. That's usually the standard is done. Patients, after they do that, it's a very tiresome process. It's like taking chemotherapy, but they're able for the next 4 days to be able to use the bathroom and so forth. And so currently, my understanding is that if you're an inpatient at Georgetown Public Hospital, it is free. And then here's where there's a problem, because most of dialysis are done outpatient, right? If you come into the hospital and let's say, they find you got kidney disease, they'll throw you on the dialysis machine and so forth. But most of it is outpatient. Matter of fact, like 70-80% is outpatient. Now, during the coalition time, both in New Amsterdam Hospital, all over the country, it was being offered for free, both inpatient and outpatient. Now, they're charging $13,000. So look at this. You are a pensioner. You're an older pensioner now. You got to take $13,000 per session. So times 3, that's $40,000.
Yeah.
And then if you're doing this, let's say 4 times a month, how much are we looking at? 160,000.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, the math actually works out to $200 million. I was looking at the numbers. I don't think we have about 20,000 people on dialysis in Guyana, right? But if there's about 20,000 and it's been done at a cost of $10,000, and I think the government could do it far less, because you buy the machines, you just need to have somebody to run the machines, you need to have a nurse there, and a nurse is just there to ensure that there's no reactions and so forth, and she's going around. So you got 1 or 2 nurses for every 10 patients or something like that. And it works. Now, the department that is the nephrology department falls under the non-communicable disease program in the Ministry of Health, and their budgetary allocation was $9.5 billion. So if you take $200 million out of $9.5 billion, I mean, we could take care of patients. And like I said, it can be done. It can be fully funded. I don't see today why a pensioner in Barbies or New Amsterdam or Skeldon or Firish or wherever has to take that burden of $160,000. They're not making that amount as a pensioner to get dialysis.
But Colin, this $10,000 grant that the government is offering for medical, don't you think they could have put that money together and have these patients have this free dialysis?
Thank you for saying that one. Now, they have budgeted $5 billion, right, for basic medical services, right? So dialysis tend to be a little more specialized, right? But look at this. They've budgeted $5 billion for basic preventive health services. The budget for the family and health services in the Ministry of Health is $4.5 billion.
Right.
They budget more money, right, for outside care than what the ministry can afford. You see that?
Yeah.
You have a $4.5 billion budget for a program to provide for everybody. Instead, you take some of that money, you could put dialysis in some of that. You could put, you could give specialized X-rays. You could make X-ray available, a diagnosis available all over the country with that, right? You could improve on screenings for people, diabetes, heart disease, respiratory illnesses. You can do so much of things. But you take $5 billion. You know where the money going to? Family and friends. It's going to
Private hospitals.
Private practice. It going back to some of those same people's pockets.
Yeah.
Because they're getting a kickback from it. So, like I said, we can provide for all Guyanese in this country fully funded in the healthcare sector. But you got a budget of $140 billion, and you're telling me that 5 billion out of that going towards, you know, going and get routine tests that Georgian Public Hospital could do, Linden Hospital, Skeldon, all of them could do these routine tests. So what we're saying here is that the PPP is telling us that they don't have confidence in the system. And so they got to go outside. People got to go outside to get health care. But we got a $140 billion budget. So what are we doing there?
No, well, it is corruption.
And
It
then
is
it-
corruption because
Yeah.
when you take all that money now and you tell the people to go outside and go and get the testing done and all of that,
Yeah.
you're giving up. You're not spending the government money on the people, but you're asking the people to go to private practitioners or private what do you call them? These laboratories and so on.
Health
And
facility
the labs
outpatient.
will make a lot of money because they're very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
They're very, very expensive. And so the money that you have there for, look, it is, this PPP happens to know how to do this thing to a fine art, do all these things to a fine art. And then they leave the money in the hands of some people, and the majority of the poor people, especially, they don't get anything done. They got to go and find money now to go to these private things. But I want also to
Cameron,
talk about another matter. We got about 15 minutes, 10 minutes.
GCOM? Yes. Let's talk to us about GCOM.
GCOM. Yeah, we had a very powerful statement put out by our leader, Nigel Hughes, yesterday, and that is in connection with what GCOM is not doing to ensure that we have what will be a free and fair and free from fear election.
Clean voters list and biometrics.
That's right. Biometrics and clean voters list. And this biometrics thing, we now know, was done in Ghana, and it took
In 2 weeks.
6 weeks. I think it was 6 weeks in
Mhm.
which the
Yeah.
GCOM, well, it's like a GCOM in Ghana Elections Commission, and the experts inside of that thing, and they got lots more people in Guyana, you know. Its
Yeah.
population, I don't know how much million, but it is in the millions. And they managed in 6 weeks to get all these fingerprint and whatever, and all the equipment purchased and so on. Now we gonna have elections still in November, so we got lots more than 6 weeks.
Yeah.
But this government and its GCOM officials who are supporting them, they don't want this fingerprint testing and so on. You see, this is the trouble. If you do not want the biometrics, it is my view, rule of thumb, that you want to rig the elections. You want a lot of impersonation. You want lot of wickedness to happen.
And with the biometrics, that cannot happen.
Right. Because as soon as you go in there and you put your 5 finger into the machine will say, Comrade Ramjatan fingerprint, these are. And Comrade Ramjatan, the photograph will come up in the machine.
Yeah.
Right? And so you can't go and say, well, you're Comrade Ramjatan, and when you go and put your hand in the machine says something else. Then they could lock you up. They could hold you up and call the police in and say, look, this is what's happening here. And so on. And the sanitized list, imagine our list now is 732,000 voters list. Could you believe that?
Well padded.
Yes, it is very, very padded with all kinds of people that dead and who got America and all kind of thing. And so you want a sanitized list to know basically who and who will be voting. And when they distribute the $100,000 for 18 years and above, I understand they distributed, as they're saying, about 80%. And they did that in about 2 to 3 weeks.
Right.
How
So why
fast-
not do the biometrics? Right.
Exactly. So why you can't get biometrics done for the 100% of the 18-year-old in Guyana in 6 weeks, 7 weeks? And so, and we understand that the 18-year-old that they distribute the money to is like about 380,000 people. So the 18-year-old, if it is another 20% more, will come up about 440, 50,000 people. Not
Yeah, by then,
732.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. But this is what we will have to fight for. We have to fight because the PPP want to rig these elections. And a
And
lot of
they know that the
politicians don't get the
coalition are the
impression that
biggest
you feel
hitters.
that PPP don't rig elections. They're smart. They know how to do this wickedness and all manner of things they're going to do now to get people to vote 2, 3 times so that they can win the next elections because they want
But
to.
it is so funny that they have so many persons before the court for rigging, and the agents that work with that 40 boxes that did the rigging, the false information, the absence of documents, they weren't even questioned or even
They weren't even
calling.
investigated,
Right.
not
So
charged, and so on.
what are we seeing? Are we seeing those same agents coming back to work? Because they, according to GCOM, they're not even blacklisted. So are we seeing those same agents coming back to work in November?
I am absolutely certain they will all be there. They will all be there, and that is what is going to cause a conflagration in this country. I love this country. I don't want violence in it, but there can be a lot of violence if they don't want to do the right things, biometrics, and that will have far more acceptability. When you get it biometrics and then you lose the elections, well, you lost.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there might still be one or two little things, but that happens in every elections, everywhere.
Yeah. Let it be
But
a
when you
fair
get
game.
a list that is so big and bloated, 300,000 more than it is normal, then it is terrible. All kinds of mannishness could happen, and especially in these strongholds of these PPP areas and so on, when you don't have the scrutineers, because they
Right.
pressure the scrutineers out of the place at 6 o'clock. They don't even show
Yeah,
up
and
to
and
vote.
and and and, and something that is being done by the GCOM staff, although Ms. Gladys Singh is trying to deny them, deny that they are GCOM staff, but they are GCOM staffs. They were employed through GCOM.
That's
And
correct. And this
some of the
scandal of
things that these same GCOM staffs will do is ask the scrutineers to go and get some drink for them or go and get something for them so that they know when the scrutineers are get them to remove, they now get the opportunity to pack the box with what they want. And I want the public to understand that these boxes are padded on election day.
yeah,
It's
well, that is
on
why we have to
day
get good
that these
quality
boxes
scrutineers.
are padded.
Yeah,
When
yeah.
you
Well,
turn your back, when you slip a ballot paper gone into the box and you don't even see it, you don't even know it, and these employers of GCOM are being paid to do it.
Well, that is why we have to get good quality scrutineers, and they must not behave stupid, so that when they're asked to go outside and whatever and so on, and we have to make sure that we get, apart from the biometrics and the sanitized list, good quality scrutineers, and so that they can do that because the democracy for a country must be fought for. We all
Mm-hmm.
must put a personal effort to ensure that our leaders are duly elected and not by virtue of rigged elections and all that. So it is important that we head in that direction and
It's
we start
important that we
asking,
continue
especially
to
young
fight for
people,
a free and fair election, biometrics, and a clean
that's
Voter
right.
voters.
slips. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's
just want to
very
say that I just want to say I think it is said that somewhere along the line Thomas Jefferson mentioned that when a people is scared of their government, it's tyranny, and when a government is scared of its people, it's liberty. I think government tends to forget that they work for us, but I think this government thinks the other way around, right? We work for them, and so if they really have any decency or decorum, we would do the right thing. You know, we have a group of people who say all the time they're pro democracy, and well, if you know you're gonna win, then you have no reason to open up for fairness. And fairness is a clean voters list. I mean, you got a population 800,000 people. You've got a voters list close to 750,000. So you're telling me with 200,000 school children, you're telling me they're voting as well? You tell me the 5 year olds and the 7 year olds and the 10 year olds are voting, Kimraj?
No, no, it's capricious about it.
Yeah. And so we need to get again the biometrics work because we've seen in Ghana, it can be done in 2 months. So Clara Singh needs to do the right thing.
But
Push
Singh needs to do the right thing. The
yeah,
only right thing she can do is to go.
right thing, the right thing. Yeah, that go. The other right thing is push for a clean voters list, and also push for biometrics so that when somebody walks into a poll station and they put their fingers and as Cameron said, it marked you voted already. You get the police to lock them up because
Colin, even to the tape that was leaked, you listening to it, you understand that not even Claudette don't have a voice.
yeah, sadly, very sadly,
She's there, but she don't have a voice.
right. She's been bullied and coerced by the what they call them, the guardians of democracy. That's what they call
Right,
themselves.
right,
Right.
and they are set there. I think they're set there to monitor her.
Mm-hmm. Right.
To monitor her. I
And
sometimes wonder if she's comfortable in that seat.
Well, it does appear that she's gotten a lot of challenges presently. The GCOM itself, with the governance structure there, not doing the reviews that are necessary to make it improve its performance for the next elections. They
Right.
never did that. And we see Vincent Alexander making the case that at least they ought to do all these things. That is why our institution gets improved in its performance. As you move along in the evolution of time, when there are mistakes like what happened in 2020, lots of mistakes by GCOM officials. You have to now go on why that happened. How could it have happened? We spent over 4 or 5 billion dollars for an elections. How come all of these things with 2,000, 3,000 officers, you had problems? How 49 polling presiding officers in East Coast did not put the correct documentation inside of the boxes and so on. What happened? Now, if we do not investigate and scrutinize the reasons why these errors were made, we are not going to get good at stopping the errors. We're going to have a recurring decimal. And every time you get an elections, again, some silly fella is going to leave out the documents outside of the box and so on, or even get all kinds of wickedness happening. And that is what we wanted to do.
purposely.
We want to improve our elections calls. We want to
Mhm.
improve our elections personnel. We want to improve our elections systems and so on. But I get the impression that that is not what is being strived for. And again, it is not good for the country because what can happen, both Colin and Camille, is that people are going to get vexed. People are going to get really, really vexed. And when they
Yeah.
get vexed, it could be violence out there. And I
Yeah,
don't want that kind of nonsense. But
I
then
agree.
sometimes you can't stop it because people just gonna tell you. And if you go and tell them to stop it or camarades go attack to them, they might give you a cough in the mouth and say, "Why
Mhm.
haul your ass?" So we
Mhm.
got to understand that this thing could play out very, very badly.
Yeah. Um, we have like 8 minutes more. Colin, over to you.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about recently about also the government is embarking on an ambitious and quite frankly, uh, I'm trying to find a word, but an impossible task of developing an electronic medical record, and this is squarely along where where my line of work is. Right, I've been doing this for over 10 years now. So first of all, they budgeted 3.3 million US dollars, so that's over 650 million Ghana dollars to implement the electronic medical record, which is when you go to the doctor, they're supposed to put your information in the computer. And, you when if you go to another facility, let's say you move from Skeldon and you come to Georgetown, you can get your information and so forth. Right,
Yeah.
access the information. So, it's good. I've worked for some of the best healthcare systems in the United States and some in the world, and they have about anywhere between 5 and 15 hospitals, and it's taken them 20 years to get this done. And I don't understand how the government of Guyana is going to implement the electronic medical record starting in what 2020, 2021, and they feel that they can get this done in 4 to 5 years. So there are steps, there are protocols that you have to go through. There's a phase called forecasting, right? You have to determine what kind of EMR you want, what how it's going to work. There's a one where there's a demo mode. They bring in the stakeholders, they demo it to them, they show them. Then you also have to ensure that you have the technical requirements. And here's where we're missing in Guyana, because we're going to develop an EMR in the interland. How is the internet connection in the interland? And then there's also some EMRs that now I work with one of them called Epic. It comes where there's a rural aspect to it. So you can get a watered down version and it can work in rural, but you need internet access because when patient's data is entered in, that data needs to be able to save or upload it into a server, so forth. So all of this you're looking at, normally it's supposed to be, I'd say, we're about 10 to 15 years behind. And here you've budgeted 300 3.5 million US dollars, almost $700 million to start something that is never going to happen. And where do you think that money is going to go? It's the same thing we started with, corruption.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's because elections year too, and a lot they want to tell the people, especially Barbicians, look, I will go get this thing, I will go get that thing, I will go get one such a thing, I will go get a new road, I will go get Fateh Hospital, and so on. And you know, get doctor for the hospital,
Right.
and nurses to the hospital. We 500 nurses short. All of them leaving the country and going
Yeah.
overseas and so on.
Yeah.
We're 500 only in Georgetown. We're
Only in
4,000
Georgetown,
across,
right?
across the
Yeah.
country. 4,000 nurses were shot across the country. And remember, we had closed down one. They had closed down one
School.
in Linden. Yeah, they
The
closed down a
school
school, a
in-
nursing school in Linden. When the Linden nurse went up in Upridge, they opened up back to school. Now they said that they're doing some virtual and stuff like that. Look, we need to be able to have more nursing schools. We need to double that amount to 6, and we need to be able to matriculate at least 250 to 300 nurses a year. That's the plan that we're working with in the AFC, is to be able
But
to
they
get
have to have a good.
800.
If they have a good salary, they will remain. They
That's
won't
another
run.
thing.
Well, that is another
Another
thing.
thing.
So I've talked to nurses about this. I've talked to them. I said to them, what is a good salary? What do you guys think would be a good salary? So remember, our economic plan now, we're saying $200,000 we're going to offer no tax, right? Majority of nurses I talk to, they're saying that if they could make $300,000, they'll stay. They'll stay and they'll work with that. And I believe that we have that money. Like I said, you got ministers buying $1 million homes, on the government money. Maybe we need to spend some of that money to help out our nurses, right? And this is
Yeah.
where, for me, it pays. I just came from a village in the East Coast called Beirut, and they
Yes.
don't have a played field. They don't have proper roads. They don't have proper lights. They don't have drainage. You got children at very young age doing reckless and irresponsible things. There's no health center. There's no schools. The nearest school is Enterprise. And we are oil rich Guyana. And we're boasting about progress and production and these things. And the most simple basic thing like a health center take over.
Entrepreneurship
We
will
can't get.
not rest until they pass maths. So I guess our focus is just on maths now. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is true.
Yeah.
It's a very sad situation. and we have to do lots better. And this year too, a lot of the young people out there in Berbice, and I'm talking here to Barbicians too, please be rational in how you deal with how you're going to vote this time come around. I mean, a lot of them, I talked to a couple of them. They say, man, if the thief a couple dollars, that's all right because we get plenty money now. What kind of nonsense is that?
Are you getting the money? They're
That's the
taking the money,
trouble.
but you're
That's the
not
trouble.
getting it.
And so we in a bad state, and I'm hoping, and then we didn't talk anything about education. There's only couple of people getting 20, 25 subjects. But when you check the bottom end of it, 90% to them is barely
27%
2, 3.
pass rate.
It is a terrible situation that
Yeah,
our education
27%
is in.
pass rate, matriculation rate, 27%.
Yes,
In the
27%.
interior, I think it's lower, right? It's like 10 and 15% in some places.
Exactly. All right. I think
Colin, can you give us your closing remarks?
Yeah, so I think that we've had these discussions today. We've talked about the endemic corruption. We've talked about the healthcare crisis and education crisis in our country. Look, it's pretty simple. We need to change the government. We need a government that's going to prioritize our education system, increase our pass rate, one that is going to be able to ensure that every guy needs get access to free and also quality healthcare. Tackling things like HIV, mental health, which is big right now, on chronic disease, right? We also need to ensure that, our institutions are functioning, they're training, they're developing, they're researching, and so forth. And then also we have to ensure that, we put in more money in the pockets of people, ensuring that nurses, teachers, firemen, police, soldiers, people who are on the front line every day that are serving us is able to have a decent working wage. And, you can be comfortable tonight knowing that, a mother with 3 children is going to go to bed hungry while a minister is there buying $1 million luxury homes in New York and Miami. This is not a guarantee.
Okay,
thank you very much,
Cameron.
Camille. And look, I just want to reinforce what has been said by Colin there. He articulated it very well. Better must come. Better must come. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, viewers, for watching us again tonight. See you again next week. For the persons in Berbice, please turn up and collect your $100,000 voucher, your check. Go to the places that you were registered. Check there to get your check on Monday and Tuesday. I don't know if they're going to extend the time, but vote right. Vote right. Your vote is your voice. Better must come. Thank you and good night.